Oh, there's Officer Clemens. Hi, Officer Clemens. Come in.
Rogers, how are you?
Fine. Won't you sit down?
Oh, sure. Just for a moment.
It's so warm. I was just putting some water on my feet.
Oh, it sure is.
Would you like to join me?
That looks awfully enjoyable, but I don't have a towel or anything.
Oh, you share mine.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh,
Come along.
man.
I'll put some more water in here.
Oh. This is going to turn into a beautiful day.
You like bare feet?
Well, yeah, as I grew older, I liked it more and more.
Uh-huh. Good for you. You're pulling up your pants. I forgot to do that at first.
Oh, I don't want them to get wet.
Right.
Oh, that feels great.
Here.
You know, when you're a policeman, you do an awful lot of walking, and sometimes your feet get tired.
Right.
That feels better already.
Good.
Just massage them a little bit.
Cool water on a hot day.
Well, thank you for your refreshments.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. You're welcome, Officer Clemens.
Shall we turn this off?
Mm-hmm. Is that enough?
Oh, that's fine. Well, that was so enjoyable. I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer.
Well, I know how busy you are. But sometimes just a minute like this will really make a difference.
There, that one's dry. And now, that one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Who can put your hand in my hand and be ready to feel all safe and strong? You're a child, so you can do it. Children do it all life long. There we are.
You have great boots to fill, Officer Clemens. And
Well,
you
thank you
fill
very
them
much.
well. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
stopping by.
So long.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Great to live in a neighborhood with special people like Officer Clemens.
That was 1969. And that was Mr. Rogers being caught acting like a Christian again, acting Christ-like. 1969, he was taking his stand against racial inequality. And the cool thing I was just thinking is some of our young people were looking at that and going, well, it's no big deal. May we continue to make that kind of progress, right? To where that doesn't look weird at all. At the time, it was Mr. Rogers being Christian right out there on purpose as we all were watching him. Yep. So we're in the middle of a series. We're always in the middle of a series, aren't we? Or the beginning or the end of a series, because we have a fantastic pastor. And this one is called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And predictably, we bring in things from Mr. Rogers regularly. So won't you be my neighbor? Here's where we began. Number one, in being able to bless your neighborhood or bless your neighbor, number one is begin with prayer, and then don't stop. Don't say, okay, I prayed. No, don't stop, continue. Number two, listen to your neighbor. Listen with an open heart and open ears and a mouth shut. Just listen to your neighbor. And then E is for eat. The barriers come down, don't they? When you have soup dribbling out your mouth, when your coffee just spilled, or when you're just enjoying something so chocolatey that you think you're going to die. I haven't had any in a while, can you tell? eat together, because that's when barriers come down and people and acquaintances become friends and family. Now today I get to talk about serve. Serve especially with love. And then next week, Pastor Paul's going to talk about only then, after you've done these things, prayed and listened and eaten and served, when you've done those things for your neighbor, then you have earned the right to tell them the story of you and Jesus, the story of you and how you were brought up in a church, the story of Jesus and how he came to you in a most dramatic fashion maybe, but only then, when you've established this relationship to this point, is it effective to finally tell this story. And you know, prayer and listening and eating all come before serve, because you know, all those things you need to do in order to learn who this person is and what they need. If you do all those things, you'll figure out how best to serve them. On Monday was Halloween, and man, we served up some candy, didn't we? We served up some candy. And we had magic. We had kids. How many do we know? Sam, do you know? Over 1,000 kids, yeah, plus moms and dads, and ponies and dogs. And honestly, did you do the pony yet? It's coming? Yeah. Yeah, a real miniature pony. That was worth showing up for. Yeah, a real miniature pony. And Sam Deering, God bless her, would you like to take a bow? Just stand up and we will thank you, Sam. Go over here. Okay, thank you, Sam. With the help of her mother, the candy runner who ran to every store in town looking for more candy. That was Sam's senior project. Well done, Sam, A+. And we served up some candy. And I was thinking about how many people came onto the church property here. And the most important thing I think that we did was the candy. Ask the kids, it was the candy. But the other thing that we did was every child we spoke to, or tried to with the shy ones, we spoke to them. And we did something that parents really need and want. We affirmed their child and said, that is the cutest thing ever. We affirmed the hours that they spent, some of them on those costumes, or the money they spent on those costumes, and we affirmed that. And so when they think of Sandy Hook United Methodist Church, hopefully they'll think, yeah, that's that church. A few weeks ago, I was giving away my keyboard because I couldn't play it anymore, and I met Mrs. Day, who plays organ at Four Seasons, when I was preaching over there, and she has a lot of piano students, and I don't know how we got on the subject, but I said, I really just want to give away this keyboard, and she said, oh, I got a student who really needs that keyboard to practice with, and so she finally got us hooked up with each other, and the mother came, and she had, I'm sorry, what should I do with that? I'm okay? Doesn't sound okay. Sounds like I have indigestion. There. She came, a mom and a van full of 4 sons, and I think it was the littlest one that's learning to play the piano. First thing I did was say, thank you for learning piano. That is so awesome. If you see a kid learning piano nowadays, thank them. And number 2, say, go on and learn organ, because there's not going to be anybody to play these fancy organs very soon. You need to learn to play organ, and you can make big bucks on Sundays. I just mentioned that to him too. So she came to get this keyboard. We were in conversation, and somehow it came around to, yeah, I used to be a United Methodist pastor all over the state, and now I go to Sandy Hook. And the boys, not the mom, the boys said, oh, we live by there. He said, that's the church that has movies outside. They've seen ya. That's the church that has the big trunk or treat. And I said, yeah, it's next week, come, you know. I was looking for him the other night. I could have missed him because costumes, you know. But they were going, oh, that's the church. So here's my point. It shows when we do those things. It shows in the paper when we list all the things we got going and, how can we serve you and how many meals are we going to do? Do we know yet? Where did Sarah go? 360 some meals we're going to do the day before Thanksgiving and drive them to their destinations here in town to make sure everyone has a Thanksgiving dinner. I suspect that number is still going to go up. Yep. So we can help serve with that. Those are all wonderful things. But those things cannot replace the personal touch of praying for someone, of listening to someone, of eating with someone, and of serving more personally. It's what Jesus showed us and what he taught us to do. Jesus brought to this planet a seismic shift in paradigm. If you want an example of a seismic shift, everybody knows Lord Kelvin of the 1894 British Association for the Advancement of Science, Lord Kelvin, who got up in front of this austere group and said to them the dumb thing that he's been known for ever since. He said, "There is nothing more to be discovered in the world of physics. We've figured it out." And everybody went, "Oh, good, we figured it out." Until 11 years later came along this guy whose hair grew just like this because his brain was so tight, right? Albert Einstein came along and published his paper, Special Relativity, and what it did was turn physics all the way around. They were going one direction, they went, whoops, and came back and went totally the other way. It was a seismic paradigm shift in the world of physics. Well, that's exactly what Jesus did. We had people who were like, they were religious. They'd go into the temple and pray. Those guys that met Simeon and Anna, those ones that met Jesus in the temple when he was a itty-bitty baby. Those guys, they just hung in the temple. They were kind of monastic. They just prayed for Messiah. There were people who went, but there were not people who lived what Jesus is going to show us right here. Because my kids were teenagers, at the time there was a group that I got acquainted with called Across the Sky. Anybody ever heard from them? I haven't either lately. Across the Sky, but they had some great songs, and one of them is still on my playlist, and it comes on in my stuff all the time, and I always have to stop and listen to this song, Broken World by Across the Sky. Because the lyrics say, long ago we fell so far, then you, Jesus, you came to where we are. In a broken world, Jesus, I'm holding on to you. A broken world, and the lyrics say, where promises are shattered and answers don't come, and friends say goodbye, and plans come undone, and dreams get crushed, and lies get told, and words can turn cruel, and hearts can grow cold. In this broken world, Jesus, I'm holding to you. Broken world Jesus came to, so far to where we had fallen to, this broken world. And he was wearing a crown when he showed up. You couldn't see it, but he was the Son of God, and he had a crown. And this verse in John 13:3 tells us exactly Jesus' status. Jesus knew that the Father had put him in complete charge of everything. I'm sure it didn't feel like it when he didn't have a pillow and had to lay his head on a rock at night to sleep, right? But he was in complete charge of everything, that he came from God, and he was on his way back to God. His crown was a sure thing. Going on. So it says he got up from the supper table. This is the Last Supper. This is my body broken for you. This is my blood shed for you. He did that too. But this night also, he got up from the supper table and he set aside his robe and he put on an apron. And then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the feet of the disciples, drying them with his apron. feet. You either think, ew, or you think, don't touch my feet. You know people like that, right? Don't touch my feet ever. And you know, the disciples kind of understood who he was at this point. But even if they didn't understand his holiness, his Son of Godness, what they did know was that he was the rabbi. He was the teacher. He was the leader. And that was not a job for the teacher or the leader. They always washed their feet before they ate. You know why? Wow, that's annoying, isn't it? I'll put you way over there and see what happens. How about that? They always washed their feet before they ate because they sat on the floor at a very low table or no table. And when you sit on the floor to eat, your feet are near your nose, right? So they always washed their feet. But it was the job of the lowliest of the lowest servant. Can you imagine the dirt and the waste from an agrarian economy that was at your feet? So they're sitting at this low table, and no one had come to wash their feet. And they lived in a culture that what was important was honor. You gain as much honor as you can for yourself. You avoid shame at all costs. Don't let your children do anything. Don't let your elders do anything that will bring shame to your family, okay? Work for honor. Get rid of shame. And Jesus got up. And I wonder if they didn't already have somebody to do that, but Jesus went, give me the water. Give me the pool. And Jesus came back, and he took off his robe, and he put on an apron. In other words, what he was literally doing is taking off his crown and putting on the apron of the lowliest of the low. And when he got to Simon Peter, this is why Peter freaked out pretty much. When he got to Simon Peter, Peter said, Master, you wash my feet? Peter was always speaking up, wasn't he? And Jesus answered, you don't understand now what I'm doing, but it will be clear enough to you later. But Peter persisted. He said, you're not going to wash my feet ever. Then Jesus said, if I don't wash you, you can't be part of what I'm doing. And Peter, we know, wanted earnestly to be part of what Jesus was doing. So he said, Master, not just my feet, then wash my hands and wash my head. And Jesus, it doesn't say it in any of my Bibles. This is the Message version. It doesn't say it, but I know Jesus laughed right then when he said that. Not only my feet, but my hands and the head, and do my feet again, you know. And Jesus said, you've had a bath in the morning, so you only need your feet washed now, and you're clean from head to toe. My concern is that you understand. My concern, you understand, is holiness, not hygiene. This wasn't about dirty feet. It was about holiness and who was doing the feet washing. He said, so now you're clean. Boom. The paradigm shifted, and it was seismic, changing the way that Peter saw the world from that moment and through the rest of his life. You know, he's still clumsy until he got that Holy Spirit thing. Then he became pretty cool, really. But in the meantime, he was still pretty clumsy. But all of a sudden, it was like, oh, holiness, not hygiene. It's hard to be served that way by someone. You know, when I was pregnant with my daughter, who's grown up and super healthy now, she was a preemie, and I got sick and went to pre-labor, and they put me in the hospital for 3 days, and then they sent me home without a baby because it wasn't time yet. They sent me home and said, don't get out of the bed. Has anybody ever had to do that? Don't get out of the bed. Oh, great, you know. We had moved down to Simpson United Methodist Church. It's in Evansville, a cool old church with a bunch of wonderful, wonderful people there, and I had barely gotten to know them. I was trying to get settled. Paul was working in the church, and I was on leave, and so I was just trying to get settled. And I had Brandon. He was just 2.5, and life was pretty full. And so I'd gotten to know people. Didn't really know all of them or know all their names yet. They were so wonderfully friendly, though. I got put to bed. Oh, great. And there was a lady in the church, she was a go-getter. She had kids of her own. They were big farmers. It was fall. It was like August, September. And yet she came to my house the next day I got out of the hospital, and she said, here's a list of people at the church. She said, we are going to sign up right here. People who want to bring you dinner every day, people who want to come clean the house every day, and people who want to come play with Brandon every day so Paul can work. She said, here's a list of people I'm going to ask. Tell me if there's anybody you don't want. Wow. And here's the thing. They did that for 3 weeks until my water broke and we had a baby. They did that. So how I got to know the people that I was supposed to serve was they came over and washed my toilets. They cleaned my toilets. And my refrigerator, it was pretty clean by the time they were all done. Wow. Wow. But that's what we do in the church, and that's what we do in Christianity, because Jesus totally, seismically shifted this paradigm right here. Right here. Going on, Jesus had said, yeah, you're clean, you're all clean, but not every one of you. Somebody remembered later, yeah, he said not every one of us, and that turned out to be true because he knew who was to betray him, and that's why he said not every one of you. In other words, all the rest of them were getting it. They were getting it, that things were being turned upside down, and what you were supposed to do was not be served, but to serve, because the Son of Man with the crown came not to be served, but to serve. They were getting it, but there was one that wasn't, and it showed in what he did after that. And then the Bible says after he had finished washing their feet, he took his robe and put it back on and went back to his place at the table. You know, at this point, it was just a few hours until he would be crucified. And in that case, he wasn't exchanging his crown for an apron. He was going to be exchanging his crown for a cross. And the real work of cleansing and redeeming that he was talking to Peter about, holiness, that was going to begin. So that you and me can be clean forever and have this wonderful, restored relationship with God. Jesus came into this broken world where we had fallen so far that nothing could shift that paradigm except the Son of God becoming a foot washer, a servant. Then he said to all his disciples there, he said, you address me as teacher and master, and rightly so, that is what I am. So if I, the master and teacher, washed your feet, you must now wash each other's feet. See, he didn't let this lesson teach itself. He told them exactly what it was about. If I wash your feet, you must now wash each other's feet. I've laid down a pattern for you. Very simply, do what I've done. What I've done, you do. Simply, he said, now it's your turn. He wasn't asking them to bear a cross. He was asking them to take off their robes, put on an apron, and wash feet, metaphorically. So what he's asking of us is that we exchange our crown for an apron. You see, still, even though Jesus flipped this paradigm on its edge, we still live in a world that believes the higher your seat, the more power and wealth you accumulate, the more leverage you have to get other people to serve you. But Jesus takes that idea and he says, nah, here's what it really looks like to bless the world. Serve. Serve. Some days I feel like I'm walking around in a crown. Do you? Because I made it pretty far in life. I was thinking how much equity I have in my house, and it doesn't look too bad. Sometimes I have to remind myself, take off your crown and put on an apron. And the more we know our neighbors, the more we learn what their needs are, the more opportunities we will have to bless them. That's the big idea for today, to bless your neighbor. Jesus invites you to serve. That's a seismic change in our community. So some ways to serve. One is with proximity. I've been to Africa to serve. I've been to Redbird Mission. I've been to Guatemala. I've been to Haiti. And it was all very, very wonderful experiences. But you don't have to go anywhere to serve, because when we did those maps of our neighborhood, whether it's your school or your actual neighborhood or your workplace or your group of friends, when we did those, we realized opportunities to bless are all around us, aren't they? Serve those who are in proximity to you, who are near you, because you know what? We're all living in this broken world together. And all people are somewhat broken. I know I am. The other way we need to serve is personally. Man, Jesus did that up close and personal, didn't he? So what do we have to do a personal, intimate thing after we pray and listen and eat with people? Then we'll know. Then we'll know what thing we need to do to serve them. And maybe sometimes it will be serving alongside your neighbor. Here's the cool thing about young people. The other day at the trunk or treat, I met some of Sam's friends who came and set up their trunks. And I just love teenagers. That's all. Yeah, I just breathe them in, kind of like those witches do. Youngness, right? Youngness, yeah. Oh, don't explain that to your children. But I love the teenagers, and I loved serving with them. And they weren't kids from our church, were they? They're Sam's friends. But there's a bunch of them that weren't kids from our church. They just did this good thing. Some of them to support Sam, some for other reasons, but they came and set up their trunks and brought candy, and they had to get more candy, and they did this wonderful thing. So maybe your neighbor, this is a phenomenon nowadays, people are going, I'm not looking for this. I'm not looking to sit for an hour every Sunday and have some old lady preach to me, okay? I'm not looking for a church, and they don't even think that they're looking for Jesus. But some of them, most of them, many of them, feel a lack in their lives, and what they call it is a need to serve. I need to be part of that. So that's really encouraging, isn't it? Maybe all I got to do for some of these neighbors is say, don't you want to come help make turkeys with me? Or whatever we're going to do. Don't you want to come help me deliver meals? That's what I'm going to do. Maybe that's all we have to do. There also may be deep needs. And so the other thing we need to do is to serve powerfully. Proximity, personally, and powerfully. I just got to remind myself, and I got to remind you, that we have a great, awesome God on our side. So if they are sick, pray and ask God to heal them. Oh, that could change somebody's faith, couldn't it? And if they have an addiction, ask God to free them. And if they have relationship problems or work problems that seem hopeless, ask God to provide answers to reconcile them. We can't forget when we're serving in these even small ways that we have a powerful God on our side. Jesus said it this way in John 14, next chapter over. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me, you believe? In me will do the works I have been doing. I think of all the crazy things he did. Wow. He spit on a guy's tongue. That was creepy, but it worked. It loosened his tongue and he could hear. Wow. All these things I have been doing, they will do even greater things than these. If they'll trade their crown, their time, their energy, their attention for an apron once in a while. Yeah, that's world changing. Now, Jason, I'm going to ask you to come, and I'm just going to tell you, I was thinking, I need a big illustration here. A big illustration about how a powerful God helped someone who was serving to make a seismic change in somebody's life. And then I realized, no, I don't. Remember these saints and the saints you're going to light candles for. When we remember these ones who have changed our lives, who have flattened the path for us, who have helped us to become the people we are and made this church the church it is, we don't need another big story. They are God's success story. Yes. So Jason, you come and here's Mr. Rogers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best neighbor any of us has ever had, Fred Rogers. For giving generation upon generation of children confidence in themselves, for being their friend, for telling them again and again and again that they are special and that they have worth. It is my honor, on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of the millions of children whose mornings you have brightened with your kindness, to present you with this Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh, it's a beautiful night in this neighborhood. So many people have helped me to come to this night. Some of you are here, some are far away, some are even in heaven. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you just take, along with me, 10 seconds to think of the people who have helped you become who you are? Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in life. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. Whomever you've been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. You know, they're the kind of people television does well to offer our world. Special thanks to my family and friends, and to my co-workers in public broadcasting, family communications, and this academy for encouraging me, allowing me all these years to be your neighbor. May God be with you. Thank you very much.